Yeah, Srivastava.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
So shall we start?
Yeah, please go ahead. Madam is available.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Pankaj.
I guess Madam has joined.
Okay. Yeah.
Good morning, madam.
Good morning, Andy. Good morning, all. Morning,
Madam,
Samay Garu.
Madam, good morning. Good morning. Thank you for accepting invitation with your busy schedule. Thank you, madam.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you.
So let's start this session. Very good morning to all present over here. And today is the third day of our 5-day faculty program on this 3D printing and design for academicians, entrepreneurs. So today's session we have dedicated for entrepreneurship opportunity and challenges in 3D printing. So dear participants, we have two speakers for this session. The first one is Ms. Sridevi Reddy, SRIX, and the second resource person is Colonel B.S. Rao, Head of the Department BA, SR University. So it's my privilege to introduce Sridevi Madam. She is a thought leader in innovation and entrepreneurship ecosystem, India and Europe. She is a Chevening Research and Innovation Fellow from Oxford University, alum of Indian Institute of Management, Kozhikode, University, and Kakatiya University in India. She is the founding CEO of SRIX, SR Innovation Exchange, a technology business incubator under the aegis of Department of Science and Technology, Government of India at Warangal. She strongly believes strategic partnership across academia, industry, and startups are the key to any country's economic evolution, especially that is at a testing time. She believes a mindset of innovation and entrepreneurs among the youth will be the instrumental in making India an innovation capital. She awarded with some prestigious award also, the National Entrepreneurship Award 2019 by Government of India, and she also been awarded with Pride of Telangana 2019. So I welcome you, madam. A very good morning. Now I will hand over the session to you. Madam, please.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. I can see 31 participants. It's really nice to know that 31 participants have registered, at least 30 participants have registered for the FTP on 3D printing and design. I personally, I'm not an academician. I'm not sure. I am authorized to talk on the academic fraternity. But one thing I can always tell is learning is a continuous process, whether we are academicians, whether we are from the corporate, or whether it is somebody like me who is heading an incubator. Learning is a lifelong process. What we learned 20 years ago when we were students, or 10 years ago when we were students, may be relevant today, but the pedagogies have changed. Understanding design, understanding other faculties of engineering is always beneficial for faculty of any branch, especially design. This is my personal take on things. Why is it important for our country at this point of time to invest or to put so much trust on innovation and entrepreneurship is because of the new generation. We have the world's largest demographic dividend, that is the young population. And this young population is very agile, has a lot of comprehension skills, is very volatile, has more understanding about various subjects which were never taught to them also because of a powerful tool called Internet, World Wide Web. So we as a country can do wonders if we make our next generation or coming generations self-sufficient, need not depend on others for their vocation. They should be able to create their own vocation, their own means of earning. Then nothing can stop India. This is something top down. The central government believes in, state government believes in, we as educational institutions also should believe in. So in this aspect, Government of India came up with various policies and also came up with various grants and schemes to promote innovation and entrepreneurship in HEIs, higher education institutions like us, which is SR Engineering College, currently known as SR University. So we are supported by Government of India, Department of Science and Technology. We are an incubator under their aegis. So why did they come invest in somebody like us in Warangal? So we are supported by our host institution, that is SR Engineering College as well. This is a 50-50 partnership. So why is everybody supporting so much? Why is everybody working towards a common goal to ignite the innovation and entrepreneurship passion in youngsters? Why? Because these are the people who are going to run our country, and we, having the maximum young population, can become the next superpower. In our countries, in our country's interest, in our youngsters' interest, it has become mandatory to invest, to focus on increasing the innovation and entrepreneurship quotient of the young generation. I would request the host to give me screen share permissions, please.
Yes, madam, you can share. It is already.
Yeah, just 1 minute. Are you able to see my screen?
Yes, madam.
Yeah. I think I started a PPT instead of a PDF, but
you can go for that full screen mode.
Yes, I'm doing that. Yeah. Okay. So as I'm giving this a little bit of knowledge about what we are doing, what we have done, what we have accomplished in the last 3 years. We are a 3-year-old incubator. Just to give you a holistic idea of what we as a higher educational institution in a tier 2 city like Warangal are able to accomplish. So I would also like to ask the host if how many people are non-SR faculty today, if I can ask, percentage wise?
Madam, almost 99% audience is non-SR university faculties.
That is nice. So all the more, I will be more than interested to share my knowledge. And I would request all the faculty to utilize this opportunity of this, not only this FDP, later also, if you want any support from SR University, any support for from SR Innovation Exchange, we will be more than glad to support you. The reason being, we would want every higher educational institution who are just now trying to build an innovation ecosystem, innovation and entrepreneurship ecosystem to flourish and their students to benefit in return. So this is our mandate. So let us, with not much ado, I think, how much time do I have, sir? 20 minutes more?
Yeah, madam.
Okay, so I'll try to finish in the next 15 minutes, and last 5 minutes, I'll try to take Q&A. So as I was telling, we are a DST incubator under SR University. We are a 3-year-old organization. So there are different types of incubators. We are a technology business incubator. That is our SR Innovation Exchange building. So it is a 39,000 square feet space, totally dedicated for innovation and entrepreneurship. So focus. We are largely sector agnostic, but we have a little bit of partiality towards agri-tech, agriculture, Warangal being an agricultural hub. So we are a little bit partial towards agriculture and clean tech. Why clean tech? Because whatever is happening today in the form of climate change is happening because we have exploited the environment to the maximum. So we would like to encourage young innovators, come up with solutions which will make this planet a better place. So agriculture and clean tech are our main core sector areas. But so technology-wise, IoT, AI, and ML is what we are doing. We also have manufacturing as our sector area. Manufacturing is not, we are not into manufacturing, but any manufacturing related innovation we would like to promote. Any manufacturing unit, somebody has an equipment, they're trying to simplify the process with a smaller equipment, we are ready to support that innovator. So we are another feather in our cap is we are one of the institutions in the country which has AICTE PGDM MBA in innovation, entrepreneurship, and venture creation. This is a 2-year master's program wherein the student does the master's as well as starts their own startup parallelly. So we are one of the 4 institutions in the country to have it. In South India, we are only 2 institutions have. We are one of them. In the whole state of Telangana, we are only one institution. It has an approved AICTE MBA in innovation and entrepreneurship. We are one of the mighty Ministry of Electronics and IT supported incubator. We are a type 2 supported incubator. In the state of Telangana, IIT Hyderabad and IIIT Hyderabad are the other 2 institutions supported. In private organizations, we are one of them. Recently, few other private institutions also got the support as a tier 3 center. We are a type 2.2 center. We are supported by a global pool of mentors. Today, everything is on Zoom, but 3 years ago itself, we understood that we can get mentors from across the world, whether they are in Canada or US or Australia. So these mentors are people who are already successful and they would like to support budding entrepreneurs in our country. So they give their time pro bono. So we are grateful to them. We are what we are today because of them. We are also supported by an eminent advisory board. You can see our website in the bottom, srix.in. You can see all these faces, our mentors, our advisory board, and our team as well. When we were starting this incubator, we understood we have traveled the length and breadth of India. So I even had the little bit of opportunity to travel in Europe as well. So during these journeys, we visited certain incubators, innovation zones, catapult zones. We understood that product startups are going through a lot of problem because there are no R&D centers available for a common man. R&D as a service in India is a rarity and it is available nowadays, but the R&D centers are pretty far, not accessible to the common man in a tier 3 town. So we felt, so for these product startups, let's start a place where they can come, where they can do research, where they can tinker, where they can experiment. Then only after maybe days and months and weeks, finally the product comes. A product is not developed in one day. So they need to have that holistic environment where they can explore and do that. We call it prototyping. You also know it. So we want them to come up with come into our center with an idea and go out with a finished product. The journey of the prototype ends with the finished market ready product. We wanted them to do that. So for that sakes, we have all the facilities for product development, makerspace, center of excellence, a lot of soldering stations, all kinds of cutting, laser cutting, lathe machines, everything we have so that a person comes with an idea and goes out with a finished product. So as this is the basic infrastructure and other things. let's go back to next. As I was telling, this is the advisory board, which is the guiding light for me. They are helping me in creating whatever, they are helping us in creating whatever impact we are creating in the last 3 years. This is my team, so my backbone. Without them, we cannot accomplish what we have done till now. So as you can see, varied experiences, people are part of the team. What is it that we give it to startups? In what way are we supporting startups? In what way are we supporting innovators? In what way are we supporting student innovators? We support them with strategy, legal support, funding support, various financial services. Starting a company is not a small thing. It is an ocean by itself. Many people, even I will not understand even today how to start a company. So all kinds of support from legal team, from a financial team, we give them support. Connections and networking. See, there are a lot of connections a startup needs to go to market. Even after going to market, they encounter a problem. They need to connect to somebody. If the startup is focused on B2G, government is their customer, then all the more. So they need connections. We support them with that. Obviously, I already told you about infrastructure and other support. And being an educational institution, one of the other support we can give them is human resource support. We, being an educational institution, we can give them fresh graduates, interns, and other employees access in Warangal. So this is one more advantage because we are an academic incubator. These are few companies which are incubating with us. The list is longer than this, but so as I was telling, this is the infrastructure support. All these are live pictures in SRIX campus. These are the mentors, few of them. I can't put all the 60 mentors on this slide. God's grace, we have been supported well with so many people showing the path on this journey. We have been given a lot of, we have been recognized for our efforts. The most important one is ARIA ranking. We have been ranked #1 in the private sector in the whole country. So this is something my chairman dreamt of 18 years ago when he established SR Engineering College. He wanted to be in the top 10 private universities in the country. And not only top 10, we are #1 in ARIA ranking. That wouldn't have been possible with the support of faculty members in our campus, the students, SRIX team, everybody. The vision of our chairman has been percolated into the result because of so many people's efforts in the last 18 years. So these are some more awards we have been bestowed. Students also got a lot of awards. Few are not enumerated here. We, as an organization, we as our SR Innovation Exchange believe that we cannot work in silos. We need academicians. We need corporate. We need government organizations. We need international university professors and practitioners as well to create an ecosystem. Running an incubator is not running an incubator. It is creating an ecosystem which in turn will run an incubator. This is what we believe in. And even today, we are grateful to DST, MIT, MSME, AICTE, and all the other ecosystem partners per se, as you can see, ISA, Indo-American Chamber of Commerce, TiE Hyderabad, T-Hub, Kakatiya Angels, NAM, everybody had some or the other impact on us. They helped us in their own small way, whatever was possible by them at that point of time. What did we do? What did we achieve? Everything has to be measured. So some metrics should be there. So we don't know whether these metrics are correct, but we are measuring ourselves with these metrics. Till date, through our sessions, through our online sessions, in-person sessions, in some way or the other, our workshops, we have been able to touch base 602 startups from across the country. 602 startups. The number of student innovators we could touch upon, which are already in our database, and we actually are talking to them, is 251 student innovators from across the state of Telangana. The number of student internships, Warangal didn't know what internships was before we came 3 years ago. We created internships through our startups, as well as SRX also has internships, summer internship for students who are pursuing their graduation. They can be engineering grads, MBA grads, MBA postgrads, or BA BCom grads. Any grads, summer internships that we instituted. Around 62 internships we created in the last 2 years. Last year we didn't do because of COVID. So only 2 years, 82 is what we have been able to create. The number of startups nurtured, incubated in our incubation program is 31 in the last 3 years. Again, same thing. Last 1 year, we didn't take new startups. And we had an acceleration program where we had 15 startups. So the total will come to 46. The number of full-time jobs created through the incubator, as an incubator, and through our startups is 85. So that's a small number, but we are getting there. We are looking forward for larger numbers in the next few years. So we, in our own small way, have supported 13 academic institutions in some form or the other, which includes JNTU as well, JNTU Mantani, JNTU Jagityal, and other private institutions in Telangana, and one in Andhra as well. In some form or the other, we have supported them. We have helped them organize entrepreneurship boot camps, or we have helped them conduct innovation challenges. We have helped them with their entrepreneurship course, curriculum design, and delivery. Some form or the other. They, based on their management, they needed some support, and we supported them. And all this we have done free of cost. We didn't charge anybody anything, neither the startups, nor the innovators, nor the academic institutions. So I'm proud of that. That's the reason I'm emphasizing on it. The number of student startups incubated. Every educational institution has a lot of student innovators. Very few of them actually become entrepreneurs. We are proud to say, and we are humbled that 8 of our student innovators, which includes 2 startups, which are not from SR, which are from other colleges as well. 8 of the student innovators have become startups in the last 3 years. Again, last 1 year, we didn't have anyone becoming a startup. Before itself, we had 8 startups, the 8 innovators who turned into startups. So every time we see IITs and NITs doing that, why aren't we able to do that is what we thought, and we started on that journey, and we could do it. I think I've exhausted my time. So what are the mantras, or what are the key factors which have shaped SRIX is the team. I'm grateful to our management team. I'm grateful to SR Engineering College leadership team. I'm grateful to my team, because of which we are where we are today. Mentors. All these mentors who are there in our ecosystem are doing this service to us pro bono. So I'm grateful to mentors. So one of such mentors is the gentleman who is going to talk after me, that is Colonel B.S. Rao Garu. He has been a pillar of strength for us. And next is corporate collaborations. We, as an academic institution, can do what we can do, and that too, we have our own limitations. We need corporates to support us. So we are grateful to Tech Mahindra, we are grateful to Cyient, we are grateful to ARM, we are grateful to SolidWorks, we are grateful to AWS. So many, if I keep on going, the list is endless. All these people in their own way, they supported us. Grants and funds by the government. Yeah, as I told you, we wouldn't have been here. I wouldn't be speaking to you, but for DST. DST supported us in that way. I wouldn't be here talking to you, but for AICT, but for MIT. So all these people and their support and their grants as well has helped us where we are today. And hand-holding startups. Our value proposition has been hand-holding startups, which has made us get a proper hold in the ecosystem. We don't want to be just an incubator. We would like to be known as an ecosystem builder. And that's what is our philosophy. And that philosophy has helped us impact more people. And so we are known by everybody in the ecosystem. And this has helped us. So these are the 6 pillars on which we stand. Thank you. Thank you, Samay Garu. Thank you, everybody involved, for giving me this opportunity to address all of you. And this is my email ID. I am sharing my number as well because you're all faculty. Please don't call me. Please WhatsApp me, and I'll definitely call back to you because a lot of the schedules are really crazy. So now I'm open for questions. I'll stop this sharing.
Thank you, madam. Thank you very much for sharing your the success mantra, I will say. And we always feel motivated and highly energetic whenever we interact with you because the energy you possess. So we also feel that positive aura because of you. Thank you, madam.
Any questions? Do you want me to see the chat for the questions?
Yeah, madam. So from any participants, if anybody is having any question, please feel
What is the scope of 3D printing in foundry industry? The scope is limitless, Bhaskar Garu. So this, as a matter of fact, scope of 3D printing in foundry industry itself will be a 1-hour lecture or workshop, whatever you want to call it. What is the scope for mechanical students to start work in 3D printing? Why students are not taking interest in mechanical engineering branch? Okay, this is what is the scope for mechanical engineering to start work in 3D printing? Huge scope, sir, unquestionably. If you go to Germany or if you go to Europe, you will see that mechanical engineering is the subject for people to pursue, frankly, because industry there is so vibrant. Why are students not taking interest in mechanical engineering branch? I don't agree with this, but yeah, in the last 4-5 years, there has been a small course correction. And again, mechanical engineering, core engineering subjects are in the forefront. People are taking a lot of interest in mechanical engineering. I'll call it this glamour of IT industry took away our mechanical engineering students. So people who took mechanical engineering also ended up as IT software engineers or something like that. But today it is not that. So with Make in India, with a lot of vibrancy going on in the industries, we being looked upon as the next country after to take over China, I think there is going to be a lot of course correction. And by the way, I'm surrounded by mechanical engineers in my life. So my dad was a mechanical engineer. My younger brother is a mechanical engineer. My husband is a mechanical engineer. So I am very partial towards mechanical engineering. So how far is it feasible for a 3D printing entrepreneur in case of mass production is not possible with the 3D printing technology? How far is it feasible to be a 3D printing entrepreneur? Okay. 3D printing is, as you all know, you can't go for thousands or 2000s of copies with 3D printing and get it into the market. If it is a bigger, the product is very big. But there are some small products, very fine products. Even today, people are doing 3D printing and they only go into the market. They don't go into a manufacturing unit to get manufactured because they are high precision, small products. So 3D printing entrepreneur. 3D printing entrepreneur is a word. You will be doing a lot of what you call testing. You will be doing a lot of prototypes for various people if you are a 3D printing entrepreneur, right? So you will be a design professional who will be doing that for them. But if you want few copies to go into the market to know the pulse, yeah, it's feasible. But if it is in large numbers and the cost of production is more compared to the market value of the product, we may have to go to the normal manufacturing process and get that printed. So there is, your question is not that clear. Hope I answered what I understood.
Hello.
Yeah.
Hello, ma'am. This is Chinmay from Prestige Engineering College. I am currently pursuing my master's in CAD/CAM, and my area of research is also additive manufacturing. So here in college, we have developed a large scale of 3D printer. Means our bed size is quite large. It's around 650 by 650 by 250. So if such kind of products we need to launch in market, so what will be, means what must be our strategy? Because um, we can't go for a large scale funding. We don't have a lot of resources over here. So means what must be a strategy? And in addition, most
so
of our
can I know your good name, sir?
Chinmay, ma'am,
Yeah,
sorry.
I can see your names, Chinmay.
Sorry. In addition to this, lot of our students have very much good ideas related to very small products related to additive manufacturing. Means simple gums that can help to uh, help to means to stick the base layer. In addition to cameras that can help for monitoring of the 3D printing processes, IoT devices. So there is a lot of new ideas.
Yeah, in the paucity of time, we'll do something. You have my email ID, ceo@srx.in. I'll type again here if you want. Please write in detail and let us take it forward from there, because the details you have given are not enough for me to actually understand and give an answer, give a solution, right? And as far as your other students are concerned and you want to help them with various other products also, we as an organization will be interested to help. Kindly start a mail thread on this. Okay, Chinmay? All the best for your program.
Good morning, madam.
Thank you.
Good morning, madam. This is Karthik, Dr. Karthik.
CVR.
Yes, ma'am. Actually, I'm from CVR, Hyderabad. You said the Innovation Incubation Center, whether we can have a center type, similar type in, it is like institute wise. So whether you're funded by central government or you're...
We are funded by central government, Department of Science and Technology.
Okay. If we have to start our own incubation center, like department wise or center wise, like institute wise, what are the procedure or the challenges you faced, or what we have to take care of that?
There are too much of procedure. This is something I can tell you. There are too many challenges also. Like basically government procedures take a lot of time. I mean, by the time we actually applied and we actually got and we actually started, there's a lull of 1.5 to 2 years. We have to have that patience. And afterwards also, there'll be a lot of ups and downs because students don't understand innovation or not much interested in innovation sometimes. And you have to make them understand. A lot of things will be there based upon the location, based upon your management, based upon the kind of students you have in the campus, based upon what facilities you have in the incubation center. Not every incubation center needs to have what all we have. They may think of having only certain facilities. Yes. So it is subjective. It is very subjective, the question you asked. But yeah, the challenges is the process is pretty long and too many applications, too many formalities, like too much of literature you have to submit, and the gestation time is pretty long. This is
without the central government funding, whether it is possible to start our own incubation center.
Yeah. If your management is ready to start, you can start. Who's stopping us?
Yes. Okay, it will be particular with research oriented or particular product development.
Your choice. It depends upon your management's vision and the people. For example, you are Karthik, right? So Karthik's vision and the management's vision, what they want to do, based on that, they'll start an incubation center. It need not have a product focus. It need not have IoT focus. It need not have additive manufacturing focus. You can think about something very niche and you can start.
Actually, we have a NewGen ID, funded 2 crore fund, we are already there. So already
nice. No, you already have an incubation, no? Then incubation center. Yeah.
But apart from that, it is like student oriented, morely student oriented, not a product. It will be product development. It is morely student oriented, not an extraordinary research type. Like this institute has to develop, we have to more focus on research oriented also, or real time product and deliverable product output delivered to society. So that's what I thinking. already this is somewhat related to mainly focus with student oriented. That's why I'm thinking whether any difference between your incubation center than this incubation center, Newgen ID.
So we support students as well as startups, both. We support even faculty. 2 of our faculty are also having startups. They have incubated with us.
Okay.
We support researchers who have done research and want to turn that research into an enterprise. We support innovators, student innovators and normal innovators. We support startups also.
Okay. Thank you. Actually, one more thing. You have any rapid or 3D printing in your institute? Like,
yes.
Yes. Okay. If any product or research oriented, we have to make prototype. We can work with you.
Yeah. We have various kinds of prototyping machines.
Okay. Thank you.
Dr. Samay Garu is in this call also.
Okay.
And he will be part of, I think he's one of the person who will speak to you often. Dr. Samay Garu can enlighten you. He's our expert in this.
So, Mr. Karthik, this is Pankaj. So, if you require to develop your product, so you can come to SRI University. We will help. Definitely, we will help you.
Okay, sir. What is the product size or anything? Any specific?
You write an email to us. Okay. So then our team will.
Evening time, we will discuss on that. Okay.
Yes, I will send a mail, special mail to you.
Sure.
Yes, sure.
Thank you,
sure. Then I think I'm done with my time. I think. So thank you so much, everybody.
Any participants?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, madam. Thank you for sharing your with us. And I would like to thank you for giving your valuable time as well from your busy schedule. Thank you, ma'am.
Nothing like that. Thank you, Samay Garu. Thank you, guys. All the best. My humble request to all the participants today. I can see 77 participants as of now, and I'm very proud of it. Only thing I would like to tell all of you is please do not attend FDPs for the sake of the certificate or just to attend the FDP. Kindly try to extract the maximum from the FTP, ask questions. If any reading material is given, please take the reading material. You will not believe at this age, after 24 years of experience in corporate, at this age, I felt like studying and 4 months, I went somewhere, studied and came back. So, and that too, I had to shell out a lot of money for that. So when somebody is giving us some opportunity to study without we spending money, but organizing good resource people, organizing good content, I would suggest we have to upgrade ourselves according to the changing times, and we have to utilize these kind of opportunities provided by the government of India to upskill ourselves. So my humble request is kindly take advantage of this program, and hopefully in the middle or in the end, again, I'll come back. And any other queries are there, any other support is needed, we are always there. Thank you so much.
Thank you, madam. So now we will move on to our next speaker of this session, Colonel B.S. Rao. Sir, are you here?
Sir is here. Sir, unmute yourself. I think you are muted.
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay.
Morning, sir.
Good morning, sir.
Hi, Sridevi. Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Yeah, good morning, Samay, sir. Yeah, good morning. Yeah.
So now I'll give a brief introduction about Colonel B.S. Rao, and then I will hand over the session to him. So, sir is an accomplished soldier, entrepreneur, startup mentor, executive coach, and thought leader. An armed force veteran with senior level corporate experience. His skills have been honed at two most prestigious leadership development institutions of the country, the Indian Army and the Indian Institute of Management, Ahmedabad. A multifaceted personality, he has a senior level corporate experience in IT and manufacturing, has provided business and HR consultancies to SMEs, and co-founded a food startup. He was a visiting faculty in Major B School of Hyderabad and an FDP faculty in Osmania University. He is adept in handling multicultural and diverse environments. He's a startup evangelist and is well networked in startup ecosystem. He has mentored over a dozen successful startups. He has established the Greenfield SRIX School of Entrepreneurship, offering AICTE approved PGDM IEV course. The first batch produced 7 startups, a non-traditional academic. He's currently heading the School of Business at SR University, Warangal. He is avid reader, Toastmaster, and enthusiastic golfer. So we welcome you, sir. And now I will hand over the session to you. Sir, please.
Thank you, Praveen. Your introductions make me look bigger than I am. So I hope everybody can hear me. Yeah. Interesting topic you have brought us into, Samaya sir and your team. 3D printing. One keeps hearing of this concept of 3D printing. And of course, you people are more aware of it. It is a slightly newer concept to us. And the wonders that it can do. And so out of the blue, Praveen comes along and says that, sir, give us a session on what are the entrepreneurship opportunities and challenges in 3D printing. So I was like, wow, now this is something. Right. So obviously a new technology, something that has got huge disruptive potential, will certainly have entrepreneurship opportunities. However, at the outset, let me tell you all that I'm not an engineer by a long shot, less alone a mechanical engineer. And neither do I claim to have any kind of expertise in 3D printing per se. But a lack of expertise has not stopped us from doing multiple things in our lives. So why not this? I mean, that is the first aspect of entrepreneurship, has to be that don't worry too much about the knowledge aspect. So many people around to give knowledge. However, during the course of my lecture, my session, I mean, it won't be so much of a lecture. Some things I would be saying, which you people would be obviously aware of. So some things would not appear very new to you. And maybe one or thing I say may also be somewhat incorrect. You are most welcome to correct me at that point of time. Me not having the subject matter expertise per se. But generally, yes, we will cover the overview of what 3D printing brings to us, what 3D printing brings into this world in general, and what kind of entrepreneurship opportunities can arise because of it, and also the challenges involved. Then I will touch a little bit upon if you want to start an entrepreneurial journey with 3D printing in mind, certain aspects that you have got to keep in mind, and I'll take you up to the stage about how you can kickstart your entrepreneurial journey in 3D printing. We will also conceptually see exactly what aspect is best suited for entrepreneurship. We have to understand things conceptually also first. The whole gamut of how to become an entrepreneur is a very generic statement, which is the same whether it is 3D printing or making starting a restaurant. All right. So, but yes, specific to 3D printing, exactly what we need to keep in mind while we start off. We will just see the starting steps. Post that, anybody truly interested to take it forward, any faculty, any student, anybody you all know, then of course the further steps can always be put in place. Madam has given you the entire gamut of what at SRIX we are capable of doing. So support will not be a problem for anybody. Praveen, I have the screen share option.
Yes, sir. You are co-host, sir. You can say.
Oh, I'm the co-host. Okay, all right. So here we go. I hope everybody can see my screen. Okay, yes, I want it enlarged. Yeah, so that's better. So entrepreneurial opportunities and challenges in 3D printing. As a matter of fact, Praveen, I must say this is one of the most challenging sessions on entrepreneurship I'm taking because of the word 3D printing in it. So going ahead. Now let us look at the potential of 3D printing. I mean, what does 3D printing bring to the economy? What does it bring to the ecosystem? What does it bring to the industrial ecosystem? Very obviously, it is a growth industry. Everybody talks of 3D printing. We in India may not have seen much, but I have seen some, I've not seen any huge 3D printed structure myself. But yes, I have been seeing it in the last 3-4 years. Certain institutes like EPTRI in Hyderabad, then the Engineering Staff College in Hyderabad, and 1 or 2 other places. Around 3-4 years back, I saw the initial 3D printing machines which they have got. And at that time itself, it was a very wondrous thing to me. Okay, this kind of a thing you want? Yeah, we can make it exactly another shape like this kind of. It was really, it used to sound so, it used to look so magical. When it would be a little time consuming, but it would look very, very magical. And even at that time, the thought process, all right, now if this becomes a norm and if this becomes 3D printing becomes a household thing, I mean, seriously, tomorrow I don't have to buy my toothbrush. I can make my own toothbrush to fit my hand size and the palm size and the child's palm size. I mean, it opens mind-boggling opportunities. I mean, the potential itself is huge, but of course we are a long way away from that till we start making our own stuff at home. Though I do know of one person who did try to who attempted a startup in making small 3D printing machines, which can be used at home by people to make their everyday things. That's a different story. Yeah. So it has got this huge, I mean, from small, when I talk of the at home for home use, then I'm only talking of a mass scale. I mean, that's an unbelievable scale we are talking of. But I do believe that before we go into the smaller usages, the growth will come in the bigger usages of 3D printing. I mean, bigger usages, I mean, bigger structures, more expensive structures, niche things. I've heard of weapons being made by using 3D printing. I have heard of buildings being made using 3D printing, maybe seen some videos also. Now, how effective they are and all, I really do not know, but it shows where we are headed in that front. And obviously it has a potential for big impact. I mean, the whole disruptive potential of it, if I can on site create everything that is required to construct maybe a building, or on-site create everything that is required to construct a bridge or something. I mean, can you imagine how much saving in transportation and logistics and all that? Of course, these are the advantages. There's some disadvantages too, but yes, the entire disruptive potential is huge. So it's a big impact area, huge impact area. Obviously, change the way manufacturing is done now. I don't visualize it happening in the next 4 or 5 years or so, but you people are better knowledge, more knowledgeable, much more knowledgeable than me in this. So I would say at least for the next 10, 12 years, no major difference will come except for some incremental things that 3D printing will do. But yes, ultimately the potential is there and it will soon change the way manufacturing is looked at. And of course, I mean, the potential of creating so many new products. I mean, products still get created now. Even today, products do get created. What's the difference that 3D printing is going to do? It is going to create the product the way I want it. I mean, so it takes a lot of time to buy a simple thing like a spectacle like this. So every time one buys a spectacle, it is never totally satisfactory the way one wants it. If it is, if the shape is correct, the color is not there, the color is right, the shape is not there, something here, something there, you know. So every time an element of compromise to everything is there when one buys any simple product. I mean, if it can make products the way, if that fellow says, sir, you wait, how do you want it? I'll make it right now and fit a lens to it and give it, my God. I mean, so that is what I mean when I say that it can create many new products. Basic product will still be a spectacle. But the way one looks at designing of spectacles, for example, is going to totally change. So that is the kind of potential that we have got in this field. Customization and individualization, that is what is going to bring about these many new products that we are thinking of. So the whole concept of standardization of products, which we currently follow, these are standardized shapes, and there's standardization everywhere, especially in the field of engineering. Standardization will give way to customization and individualization. That is the potential of 3D printing. And so as a consequence of all this, going to be a huge, big disruptor. It is, the very thought of it is very, very mind-boggling. We are in the nascent stages of 3D printing technology, where it can go and in which all spheres of life it can impact us is quite unimaginable. Yeah. So advantages, less volume production. Because of more customization, there is less, rolling stock and inventory stock and a whole lot of aspects. There's a weight concept to it. It is my presumption. Some of you may disagree with it because you people are more qualified in that actual thing, but I presume that a weight reduction aspect will be there for 3D printing, for the products coming out of 3D printing, which will help in certain kinds of industries which look for lightweight products. Material efficiency, once again, I will not stress too much about it because I'm speaking to experts of the subject. You all may have certain disagreements on this aspect. Maybe in certain places this material efficiency will not be there, or maybe in certain aspects it will be there. But by and large, it's generally accepted that there will be more effective utilization of material and more impact out of the same amount of material, or more value gain out of the same amount of material can be done, or different materials get to be used for the same kind of product. Quick product growth is one of the advantages. Definitely, we can get into greater design complexities. 3D printing essentially is the printing aspect is the second step. The first step will be the designing aspect of it. And with the advancement in design tools and technologies, and with the customization facility available as a characteristic of 3D printing, the design complexities, that you can handle more complex designs. Shorter lead times, right now may not be because of availability of raw material, but going forward, the lead times for producing anything will definitely be a major advantage. The opportunities are there plenty. These are opportunities which can also be entrepreneurial opportunities. Aerospace, huge sector which will look for lightweight materials and all, and complex products. Defense, automobiles, health sectors, dental, medicals, consumer goods, industrial goods. So we see this more or less covers the entire gamut of industry. What else is left? The actual physical manufacturing industry is more or less covered in this. Out of this, we have the service industries and all. So here, and of course, I have kind of missed out on maybe construction industry, but if you consider that as part of the industrial industry, it will be there. So everywhere in each of this, which practically is across every sphere of our economic and industrial activity, there are opportunities. And if there is an opportunity, there is a very good chance of it being converted into an entrepreneurial opportunity. All right. So, I'll do a quick run through of what all kinds of opportunities are there. There's nothing very, very new about what I'm saying. All this obviously would have crossed your mind, or in the course of your studies and teachings of 3D printing, all this would have been discussed. So nothing very new. I mean, you can be a 3D printing service provider, a printer manufacturer, the aspect what are required, the resins and filaments that are required, either a manufacturer or a reseller, distributor, accessories and supplies, reselling, distribution. On the education front, the 3D printing courses and 3D design courses will be a big edutech sector coming up in the near future. Then modeling and design services. So essentially, we are talking of either manufacturing the machines or their accessories, or being a supplier, resupplier of the same and providing allied services to that, or we are talking on the providing design services for 3D printing and actual models being made. And also on this field of education. So these are the broad kind of sectors. Now, all this, can be across the board in all industries. The kind of things that can be made, I mean, customized collectibles, improve upon existing products, do some value addition to existing products. So, I mean, you do some value addition to maybe a mobile phone or a standard telephone or to maybe a water bottle. And I mean, plenty. This is all left to the imagination, creativity, and innovation of the person. But so many things that are in people's mind, if this was there, it would be better. That is possible now. Making promotional products. One doesn't always have to keep the real product when they go out for promotional activities, making the duplicate models, detailed internal models for studies and for education and all. Pill production is essentially out of the health thing. I don't know how effective it is, but yeah, that's a possible thing. Medical implants, of course, prosthetics would definitely hugely benefit due to 3D printing. And electronic assemblies, glass frames, art, custom-made tools, rare spare parts of antique vehicles which are not available now. All that would be a very, I would say, quite a good niche in 3D printing. So this is just a sample list. I mean, we can add another 100 to this. So the point here is not what can be done, that everybody is more or less aware of because you are in the field. So what do we do with it? I mean, what are the impacts that it will have? Product marketing will be quicker. Outsourcing might become moot. When, I mean, OEMs could be under threat. If the main manufacturer starts making all the allied products that he requires by 3D printing in his plant only, a lot of original equipment manufacturers who supply to the automobile industry and to the other industry could find it. Either they convert to 3D printing, but then why would anybody want to outsource? So this outsourcing, especially the OEM kind of outsourcing, could be under threat. But if something comes under threat, always you have something else coming up as an opportunity also. But this is just talking of the traditional processes which could be under threat. So outsourcing could be a big threat. Designs will be open and community oriented. I mean, imagine something being built in which everybody, it is like putting something on open source and asking for comments and criticisms and improvements, So because design will be accessible to everybody, inputs can be easily added into the design functions. Customization will become the norm. Not yet, give it another decade or so, but people will soon, because there is so much individualization going on these days. Everybody wants to be within himself, and the self has taken this big thing, and I want it like this. So it will become a lifestyle statement to have only self-customized things around me. So customization is going to become a very big norm, because 3D printing is going to facilitate this kind of customization. All right, certain challenges that will be faced in this project. Slow is currently, I should say, and the slowness, speed of machines, process flow because of availability of or lack of availability of the correct kind of raw materials, or the size of the machine, or various certain technological things. So right now, things will be slow moving. Even if I want to become an entrepreneur in the field of 3D printing, things will not move at a pace that which I would want it to make it as a large scaling up kind of a business. Inconsistencies of materials. I mean, there's a lack of standardization in the industry as of now. I mean, a lot of protocols have to be decided and set. So when it comes to raw materials, or which actually end up making the product, so you will find it. So if you are making multiple pieces of the same product, maybe the case of a mobile phone, if you are making 1,000 pieces, it may be very difficult to maintain the same quality standard for all 1,000 pieces, because you may not have that kind of supply of raw materials of the same specification all the time. So inconsistencies of materials, not meeting the technical specifications of the end requirement will be a challenge as far as 3D printing is currently concerned. Manual post-processing, you all are more aware of it than mine, that physical aspect of polishing up the product after it comes out of the machine. It is something very similar to a blow molding machine in the plastic industry, where after it comes out, then all the additional pieces have to be cut off and chopped off and all that. That process is still there in 3D printing. So that level of quality in the printing itself is not there, which can do away with the requirement of manual post processing. Limited design capabilities is a questionable thing, because in the previous slide I said the design capabilities are immense. What one is talking about here is the human resource and the tools, and also the conceptual availability of designs. You know, the designs have to be, you all are engineers, you know, designs have to be kind of ratified on paper first before they actually can be implemented. You know, there is some kind of a literature testing kind of a thing that goes out before it actually goes onto the drawing board. There will definitely, because of the inconsistency of materials, because of the lack of standardization of large-scale manufacturing machines and all that, quality control would be a major issue. So when you are going into large structures or large kind of machine, that this aspect of quality control, machines with multiple moving parts, maybe this aspect of quality control will be issue. The industry currently does not have too many protocols. In fact, we have to wait for maybe even a national policy. MIT has been working on trying to create some kind of a national policy on 3D printing machines. Some more challenges, the human resource challenge. It is not the operation of the machine. The way I see it, the biggest challenge is going to be the design person and the design skills. Okay, if really one wants to take 3D printing to meet all the potential that it can meet now. Right now, in colleges, we also have a rapid prototyping zone. We got a 3D printing machine. Things are still under testing. I mean, we make certain things like maybe a chess set or certain demonstration, technology demonstration kind of pieces one makes. But if given a challenge of making really something requiring a little more complexity than copying otherwise existing pieces, then design challenge will be a major thing. That is what I mean by the human resource challenge. The capability of creating the design. Investment will, of course, be a problem, because all new technologies, initial investments will be quite high. Subsequently, the rates will fall down. But right now, investment would be an issue. There is no structured ecosystem to create your dependencies of, the machine, the raw materials, the service aspect, the AMCs, the design teams, the design softwares and tools. It is there somewhere scattered around. I mean, with a little bit of effort, you can bring it all together, but it's not a very structured. Let me say why structured. In India, many things function in a non-structured way. What I really mean is it is a non-evolved ecosystem. The ecosystem has yet to evolved to a certain level of maturity where things are available on a phone call and you know multiple suppliers of the same thing or service providers. Benchmarks of quality I've already discussed. There's a limited recycling option, but I don't know why we should hold that against 3D printing. There's a limited recycling option to plenty of things. I mean, seriously, why is 3D printing? The biggest challenge going to come up, we talk of new technologies. I don't see any recycling option for solar panels. I mean, tons and tons and of millions of the solar panels weighing tons of in weight. There is no recycling for that, or for that matter, we are talking of electric. I mean, that may be a clean technology, but it's going to come unclean when you think of recycling those panels. Similarly, with electric vehicles, where is the recycling plan or the disposal plan for the batteries? So every technology that brings in something new comes with its own package. So I won't hold the limited recycling as a particular problem. It is a problem, but it's not a very particular thing to the 3D printing industry. It's across the board. Legal protections. I mean, the protocols have to be in place. Legal, because you see every product that we buy in the market is produced against a certain set of technical specifications that are given, and there are certain guarantees that are expected from the manufacturer, and the guarantees the manufacturer gives also are based on the guarantees that he gets from his suppliers of various small parts that go into the product. For which he is legally liable. There's a protocol established for that. There is no protocol over here. So legal protection of the supplier of 3D services or 3D produced goods is something that will need to be looked into. Specifically, if one is thinking of a startup, one has to see that you have the legal, firstly, that the business is legal. Of course, that's not a problem, but where is the protection to it? You know? So that would be an issue. MeitY has, it spoke in 2018 or 19 of coming, and there is a document also which is called the National Strategy for Additive Manufacturing. The document, a 70-page document, does exist. Further to that, I really do not know, but I'm sure there must have been knowledgeable speakers who have come as part of this FDP who have given you more inputs on this aspect. All right, now we'll move on to the startup thing per se, having seen a bit of the background for this 3D thing. I mean, when we think of starting a business, when we are looking at it from a starting perspective, so we have to consider all this. I mean, as 3D printing, what advantages does it bring? What is the impact that it has? What are the kind of challenges that are there? What are the scopes and opportunities and all that? So we have seen that. So we have come to some kind of a conclusion, I suppose, that the scope is immense. There are a few challenges which over time will keep reducing or will keep getting will stop being so much of a challenge as is it now. Now, when you require to start up, your basic requirements, I mean, when I say, okay, 3D printing is a great new thing and this is the field, and some student says, yeah, I'll do a startup in this. A good idea, the enthusiasm is good, the energy levels are good, everything is fine, the idea is good. But I mean, what do you need to start up? Just because I have learned something about 3D printing and have seen the functioning of a machine in my college laboratory or in an incubator, and then I get excited about the possibility and say, okay, now I'll start. Start what? You know, so when you go into this, there can be some dampeners, but those entrepreneurs, startups have to come over this. And the way I see it, as far as starting any kind of a venture based on 3D printing. Now, we saw earlier in a list, there are certain trading ventures available. One can be suppliers of machines and filaments and resins and raw materials and all that. So that is like trading. That is like any other trading. Like soon you will have people who are supplying computers and peripherals will start supplying these machines. So I'm not really considering that's a business opportunity. Yes. I'm not looking at it from the pure entrepreneurial or from the startup perspective. The trading of goods that any computer dealer can also get into that as of now. The opportunity for business does exist there, but I'm not looking on that as a startup. When I talk of a 3D startup, one is essentially talking of, at the core, we are talking of creation of products. And that creation of product, the core to the creation of product has got to be the design skills. So the designing aspect, having the right skills to use the tools available for design and the equipment available for design, has to be very intrinsic to a person who wants to do any kind of a startup in the 3D field. Then comes the technical expertise of handling the machines. In between the two, what is more, both are very important, but I would still say that the design skills are more critical. Machine operation will be easily learned. Okay, people handle complex machines all the time. So this also they will handle, but the design skill is going to be most critical. Then you have to have a good knowledge of all kinds of materials that are available. I mean, making some showpieces kind of thing is okay. There is no damage involved. There's no stress on it. There's nothing much for it. But when you're talking of products that have got commercial use and you're going to get a limited, you know, if you want to make some things like which are like small items, regular use items, like maybe showpieces or figurines of gods and goddesses or cups and things like that, and put them out. Okay, fine. Those items as a raw buyer, I will really not know what material you have used while 3D printing this. I may not even know that it is 3D printed. All right. But think of more complex. When you start, if you want to become a supplier to a automobile manufacturer, now you got to have some real solid knowledge of materials as they exist, their properties, their usages, their availability, their suitability for that particular product to meet the technical specifications. So good knowledge of materials used in this 3D printing machine, very important. Sourcing. I mean, we just see these things here. Now, very frankly, in RTBI, we have this rapid prototyping zone. Ahead, I can see some products which are made out of those machines are kept there. Really, I don't know where those machines have actually come from. The procurement person has got it from somewhere. All right. And then those other raw materials, things that go into it for the product to be made. I mean, where have they come from? One doesn't know. Now, these are very simplistic, very basic things which we will keep getting regular supply for. When you get into more complex things, you require more machines, more equipment, more kinds of material. You got to know where they are available, at what rates they are available, how best can we source them. So this is a very basic requirement when you think of starting up. And of course, finally, it all boils down to money. So you got to think of where the money is coming from. If somebody is willing to invest for you, well and good, or how much you are going to put into it. All right. And now over here, I would like, I mean, anybody thinking of getting into 3D printing as an entrepreneurial or a startup venture, my first advice would always be to think high impact. What do I mean by high impact? What I mean is, see, it will be okay to make maybe cups like this, or, you know, certain, maybe some this mobile phone holders, or some kind of stuff like that, you know. The point is, these have a market, they do sell, but after that, it is just that you are making the product. Your competition is still there. This person who's made it out of clay or whatever this thing is made of, porcelain or what, is still there. He's not going out because you have come into the place. So if you want to enter a very traditional market with a 3D printing product, what advantage are you gaining over there? I mean, do you think you can manufacture it much faster than others? You can manufacture in more volumes than others? Maybe can you get the same kind of finish, considering that you still have to give it a post-finish manual scrubbing? A lot of aspects. So my thing would be leave things like these for our trial stages and learning stages about how exactly things are made on 3D printing. Expertise gained in making very basic products cannot really be converted in the field of 3D printing, cannot really be converted into a business idea, because a business idea subsequently talks of the size of market, where is the market available, your logistics, your supply capability. There are a lot of issues that go into it. 3D printing is not yet there for fast-moving run-of-the-mill products. And in fast-moving run-of-the-mill products, the second aspect is anybody can make that. So there's no point in getting into that. Is why I say find a niche, find a niche. A lot of your students will go into this, they'll get excited because they have made a nice cup or they have copied a nice figurine or something and it's looking very nice. Or no. So plenty of students in plenty of college laboratories are doing the same thing. It has to be a niche. That is why I say the design skills of the person have to be of a different caliber. What can I do? What can I do that you cannot? Where is my competitive advantage? Oh, you got a machine, you got all the designing tools and everything, so you can also make this. Or you say, no, you cannot make this because my skills of design you do not have. So where are you really good? Do not mistake the ability to operate a machine as enough skill to go into a startup. You are still not creating a differentiator. So that thought process of what is it that I can make that others cannot easily replicate, finding a niche will be very, very critical. All right, and be sure about the need. I mean, there's a very generic thing which I tell all startups. I mean, just because you can make something, don't make it. And then insist that people will buy it. And then say, God knows, why are people not buying it? It's such a nice product. No. Enter a space where you genuinely think there is a need. If you think there is a need that, okay, for example, let's go back again to the spectacle thing. The spectacle sellers. Praveen, am I running overshooting time or something? I'll take a little more.
No, sir, you can carry.
Yeah. So, say the spectacle sellers. Now I can think, I mean, this is just a general thought. Okay, my design skills are very good. I will offer my services to the spectacle shop owner in XYZ place. And I will tell him, okay, you just tell your customers that they don't have to choose between available models. Tell them we'll make them exactly what they want. And I'll sit behind in a small room and keep making it. Take the order today, 2 days later, we can deliver. Okay, that can be a business model that can work. Okay. Why? Because my design skills are such that I can make it very customized from an 8-year-old child's face to how exactly a 80-year-old person with very uneven hands wants his spectacles. I can make that. They may be finding it very difficult picking up from standards for samples that are available in shops. So that's what I say, find that niche and find that skill that you can do that design. Now, I don't know how easy or difficult it is to make that design, but then I presume that when you talk customization, it requires a certain amount of design skill that is there. Otherwise, that customization may not happen, will not happen. All right. Now, also with this, remember that when you start, you are just the first mover. It won't be long before other people enter into the field. It's like we have coders and all passing out from our CSE department, CSE department. They learn, but then everybody else also learns, you know. So you find challenges coming from multiple sources. People are running 3-month workshop, 4-month workshop in Amirpet and all, and making coders out of geography students also. So challenges will come from all directions. So that need has to be a long-term need. Yeah, this is what I was saying. The sustainability and long-term need are the key. When you think of a startup, you are not thinking of doing something as a one-time thing and then saying for the next forever, I will keep doing this only. That doesn't work as a startup. What is the next step to this? Where are further innovations come from? What is the further creativity going to be? What other spheres can I enter into when it comes to this? That is why that first point, think high impact. Think of a niche. What will have a continuous need, unstoppable need? Now, always be aware. The minute it's a machine 3D printing, if I make something today I may be the top gun. Hey, nobody can do it like I can do. That's not going to, that situation is not going to stay. It's a matter of time before people will do what you can do and do better than you can do. So what am I starting? How can I scale it up to a certain level? For initially, I beat people because my design skills are superior. So you cannot do what I can do. Now a stage comes, oh, now you can also do what I can do. So now how do I stay ahead of you? Okay, but you don't have the kind of scale that I have. You don't have the equipment to produce in the quantity that I produce. You don't have the tools to create designs that I have. So somewhere I'm still created that differentiator. Over time, they will catch up again. I say, oh God, he's caught up again. Now what do I do next? So this is how businesses grow and scale. This is how you always keep your, you'll always have competition. He'll also survive, he'll also survive. But if you don't think of scaling up or changing or evolving, then, you know, as they say in the startup world, you got to keep running to stay in the same place. To stay where you are, you got to keep running. If you stop running, you'll keep slipping back. All right, so whenever your students will talk of, sir, we want to do a startup in 3D printing, kind of educate them on these conceptual factors. On this, students tend to get very, very enthusiastic because in one project he made one piece. So very good. Oh, very nice, you copied this. Now suddenly all his dreams revolve around that. So sometimes it is, you got to, I mean, like they say, you got to keep tapping the earthen pot to give it shape, right? Yeah. Get your idea validated. Get your idea validated by, in this case, by 3D printing experts. Okay, from the design front, from the materials front, from the machines front, or whatever expertise is there in 3D printing. So this is what I plan to do. You should get that idea validated. Okay, firstly, from the technical aspect of the 3D printing process. After that, he has to find some kind of a business mentor. Is this product, what is the worth of this product if I make it? Is there a market? Is it sustainable? Is there growth? Who are the other competitors? What is the competitive advantage that I can create because of this? So that kind of a validation needs to be done. Without the validation, don't let anybody jump into it. And all these validations and all are critical processes. And it is a matter of, you know, young enthusiasm clashing against, what shall I say, hard facts, against critical analysis. So it becomes a bit of an issue. So these iterations need to be done, that open-mindedness has to be there. Okay, this won't work like this. Okay, what else can I do, or what else can I not do? All right, one should not be charging into it, blindfolded. I got the idea and this is the best. That usually happens. I mean, the young startups will fall in love with their ideas and are very reluctant to listen to anybody who is trying to correct them or going against their chain of thought. If you have gotten your idea validated and you think that it can go from the technical side and from the business angle, it all looks good, you may want to look for an incubator. Not necessary, but incubator, as you have seen in the previous session by Sridevi Madam, incubator is a one-stop shop for practically everything. It is always good to incubate. You get everything that you need, from material resources to advisory resources, human resources, legal, everything you get there. So you don't have to run around for anything. Find a mentor. Always have a mentor. A mentor is a person who can see pitfalls which you cannot see. A mentor is a person who will tell you where you're going wrong or what you should do to be more right. A mentor is not a yes man. A mentor is not your friend. He's not there to make you happy. A mentor is just to assure you that the paths that you're following are right. Mentors do not come with a guarantee of success, but mentors are the best people who can reduce your chances of failure. If it is a product, make a prototype in the incubator. If it's a physical product, if it is a service that you're giving, and I would always say that it is on the service side that major entrepreneurial opportunities of 3D printing lie. When I say service, it is, okay, I can design whatever you want. I'll give you the design, you go get it printed anywhere. Okay. So that kind of a design could be a service. Then if in that case,
I think, sir, you are muted.
No, now I'm
okay.
I don't know. I didn't do anything. It just happened. Sometimes technology, no? Okay, so as I was saying, upskill. I mean, what are the other tools required? I mean, if I'm saying I will enter the field of 3D printing, but I don't want to make physical products. But what am I going to? Anybody can make a physical product if they have the raw material and the machine and the design. Okay. So what is the most critical aspect? Let me be the best designer around. Let people come to me for anything. I'll design it for them. Could be a service. Then, of course, then I have to upskill myself. I have to procure all those. I should have all those high-end tools that are softwares or whatever it is that are required for doing it. Incubators are a good place to get all this done. You might require maybe high-powered or high capacity computers or stuff like that could be needed. Why is this not moving forward? Yeah. Once your prototype is ready, then conduct your alpha beta. Alpha test is the test that you conduct internally yourself to assure yourself that yes, the product is working fine. Beta test is when you ask an actual end user, yeah, try it out for me and tell me what, take feedback from there. From the person who is actually going to be the end buyer. Send out 5-6 samples to 5-6 different people. I have made this, use this in your factory, use this with your machinery, use this here, and just give me a feedback how it is or what changes you would like in it, or what is good, what is bad, kind of thing. Okay. And if your alpha beta tests are reasonably successful, start making a business plan. Your mentor will help you make a business plan. If you're part of an incubator, they will help you make a business plan. All right. So to this extent, one can look at for entrepreneurship opportunity in 3D printing. So essentially what we are saying is that there is a huge scope. Undoubtedly, there are certain hiccups en route, which will get, I mean, any kind of industry, new industry will have that. We should accept it and live with it. Don't jump into anything that comes. Look for that critical aspect which will require your expertise. Okay. Don't mistake machine handling capability with enough knowledge to, you know, start a business, because that is a easily acquired skill. That's a easily acquired skill. It is, you know, just because I'm a good, say, driver of a four-wheeler, does not mean I understand the internal combustion machine. I don't know anything about the internal combustion machine, but I've been driving for 30, 35 years. So one has to be aware just where one's skills lie and who requires what kind of skills, what is a sustainable business idea, and what will always keep you on a growth path. Once you have identified all that, try to join an incubator, because incubator is a good one-stop shop where you find all the resources that are required to take you ahead. Find a mentor, make a prototype, alpha test it, beta test it, and then prepare the business plan. I'm not going into the details of what is alpha testing, beta testing of a business. All these are independent 2-3 hour sessions separately. I'm just saying that these are the steps that you would need to follow, but the crux is, please pick the right idea. Please pick the right idea. This is a new field. It's got a lot of scope. A lot of people will get very excited about the opportunities, but within that opportunity, know what is the critical aspect. You know, in engineering and all, you'll use a word very constantly called critical mass. It's also in some jargon, it is called the tipping point. That identification has to be very correct. Then you are set for a startup. Then you are set for a startup. So that was all, ladies and gentlemen, which I wanted to say. Further details of what we do in a startup, I run an IEV course, which is 2 years long. So it's not a one session thing. But there we have it, the opportunities, the scopes, how to go about starting it. Any questions, I'd be glad to take them on. Somebody had asked a question earlier in the previous session.
Yes, sir, a few questions are there in the chat box.
Okay, oh, sorry, let me then stop share and look at the chat box. Oh, wow, you said few, there are 16 over here. How mechanical students get jobs in 3D? They demand experience in 3D globally. Oh, there's a question to
Madam.
Okay, so that's a privilege. They demand experience.
Question is the last question, that is Dr. Sasikant.
Okay, sometimes the finishing of product becomes more costly. Can we say that the designers will still have more opportunities through 3D printing processes? The finishing of a product is always an expensive affair. That is why it is always good to join an incubator. An incubator will have the resources to help incubatee take the product to a prototype completion stage. Once the prototype is successfully made and tested and is proved worthwhile, then the process takes on. Then expense will not be a matter after that. So can we say that designers will have still more opportunities to 3D printing technologies? The way I understand it, I do believe that designers will be the critical people. The machine operation will not be so much of a thing. The designer will be the most critical, because the designer will have to have, he has to have designing skills. That is one aspect. And also he should have the industry knowledge. What I'm saying is, why is a designer so critical? If we are talking of aerospace industry, and there is a particular part required in the very complex machinery of whatever is an aircraft, there is a particular part required. If it is a matter of just a nut and bolt, and I'm told that in one Boeing, there are some 1 million nuts and bolts or more. Understanding of a whole lot of flight technology is required to be a good designer of that product. Of course, the technical specifications can be laid out by them and we can just blindly follow the technicals, but that is not enough. You see, what I'm saying is Apple, who's the Apple guy? Bill Gates was once, not Bill Gates, sorry, Jobs. Jobs was once asked, why are your phones made in China? Just because the labor is cheap, you are sending your phones to be made in China. You see, the designing is all done in Apple office in US. But the product is made in, so somebody asked him, why China? Just because it is cheap, you're sending it there? He says, no, that they are cheap is definitely an advantage. But he says it is not like that. Just because I send the design and they make it, don't think it is so simple. You require people with the brains to understand that design with the knowledge of the particular thing that they are handling. Only then they can actually make it. It is not that if somebody offers it to me, if somebody gives me the same skill at a more expensive place, I'll give it to them. If somebody gives us, tells me we will assemble it cheaper, I'll not give it to them. I'm give it to them because of the skills that those people bring to the table. So I again visualize that in 3D printing, as things go ahead, it will be the design skills that will be the very critical aspect. So I hope Dr. Shashikant, I've been able to at least partially answer your question, if not fully. Yeah.
So any participants, if you are having any question, you please feel free to ask, sir.
So if
No
not,
question.
then, huh?
Yes.
So thank you. Thank you very much, everybody, for being such a patient audience. I hope that I have not said anything which is so very totally wrong about this technology, because I do understand that everybody sitting as an audience is more knowledgeable about 3D technology per se than I am or I can ever be. It was just trying to look at it from the entrepreneurial aspect that I brought out some points. Thank you very much for being such a fine and patient audience, and wish you all good luck in your future endeavors with 3D printing. Any which way that I or we can help you here, you can always get in touch with me through Samaya sir or with Praveen, anybody. All right. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Sir, thank you, sir, for sharing your valuable knowledge with us. This was really a very interesting and wonderful session. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much, sir. Okay. Yeah. I'll leave now.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
So, dear participant, I have posted the feedback link for today's session. You please fill the form, and again we will meet at 12 p.m. Thank you, everyone. Just we are closing the session.